How's everyone doing? I got Chris, Tony, and I got our good buddy Jacob Roach from the Barking Brown Show. Me and Jacob go way back. Had a fun year together a few years back. But he's got a really good show. Even though it's the Browns, he's a good guy. Give him a listen. Thanks for coming on, bud. What about you, Chris and Tony? How you guys feeling about this week?
It's game week, right? I mean, everyone's pumped.
Let's go.
I'm just happy to have football back, baby.
Yeah.
Yes,
it's been a long, long wait.
Long, dark road that you just don't know when it's ever going to end, and it's finally ending tomorrow. So, yeah, man, this is awesome.
Yes, sir. Yeah, I mean, everyone loves summer. Like, summertime's great, right? Like, barbecues, cookouts, the weather's nice. But fall in Ohio, you got the trees, the scenery, hunting, man. I mean, I go out there, look at some bucks. I know Tony knows what I'm talking about. Do a little scouting, have some fun. But what's most important? We got football, baby. Friday night football under the lights with the kids. We got college ball. And most importantly, we got the Bengals. Sorry, Jacob.
Yeah.
All right. Week one matchups. I know what I think most of us are looking at, but let's get Jacob's opinion, and then we'll go around the horn the matchups we're looking at, because I got a couple, but we'll see what you guys are thinking.
Yeah, so for me, I think probably the most important one, because I think it's just everything else hinges on it for Cleveland, and that's just the defensive backs against those three wide receivers. Because, yeah, the Browns have got a really, really nice pass rush. They have a really upgraded defensive line. There's Zadarius Smith, Ogbo Okoronkwo, Dalvin Tomlinson, Shelby Harris, Myles Garrett. All those names are great, but if the Bengals can throw the ball in 1 second before anybody else gets there, then it doesn't really matter. Denzel Ward's in concussion protocol. He was limited in practice today. It's his fourth concussion since coming into the league, so I have some long-term concerns there as well. But it's all about if Ward's healthy, if Newsome, is Newsome in the slot, who's in the slot on Tyler Boyd, who's on Jamar Chase, who's on T. Higgins. Like, the Browns have three good corners, but it all hinges on them to let the rest of the defense do their jobs.
Now, do you think they're going to play a lot of cover one against us?
If Denzel Ward's healthy. If Denzel Ward's healthy, because I don't think you want to make a living on Newsome and I like Newsome on Chase, but I don't really know about Emerson on Higgins, because Emerson's kind of the bigger player, and I'm not really sure I want to put him on an athlete like T. Higgins. But I think you'll see a lot of cover 3 and a lot of cover 1 if Ward's out there. But I will say the success that the Browns had last year on Halloween against the Bengals was a lot of zone coverage, a lot of layered zone coverage on top of each other. So I think they'll probably start with that just to see if it works again. But if it doesn't, yeah, I think they'll convert to a lot of man coverage.
Okay. We'll go across. Chris, what do you think are the differences in the game plan?
I mean, I think that obviously Jacob touched on a couple of the key things. It's going to be the Bengals offensive line versus the Browns defensive line, and the Bengals wide receivers against the Browns DBs. Those are going to be the two big storylines throughout the game for both sides. And I think one of the things that you touched on was that if the Bengals are able to get the quick throws, if they're able to get the throws off quickly, then it doesn't really matter that pass rush is there. So I think that we're going to see a lot. I personally think that the Bengals are going to try to run the ball early on in the game. I think that with an addition like Orlando Brown and a massive human being playing next to him and Cordell Volson, I think, you got 380 and 335 coming at you. I think that you have to try to take advantage of that, along with Ted Karras and Alex Kappa being the second year in the system. All three of those interior guys getting that chemistry, playing together for 2 years in a row. It's going to be huge. So if the Bengals can take advantage of the running game or take advantage of the quick passing game, then they can open up some of those intermediate routes and take a fifth guy out of the pass rush. If the Browns are able to stop the run and they're able to stick to Chase and Higgins early and make those routes into long developing routes, then I think the Bengals are going to have trouble because the Browns will be able to send a fifth guy on the rush. So if that's the case, we all know the struggles that the Bengals have had with the pass rush pickup from a running back position. So it'll definitely be a good old-fashioned AFC North brawl.
Yeah, I mean, much the same, right? We can all talk about the Bengals offense and kind of know what their identity is, but I think the biggest storyline here is actually the replacements, all the safeties that we have coming in, replacing guys like Von Bell and Jesse Bates on the defense, and then Nick Chubb being that sole bell cow running back for the Cleveland Browns, right? I think they're going to try to stress them early, right? A lot of that run, ground and pound game, put stress on those safeties. Deshaun Watson's certainly going to get back and do a lot of read option. I think all those games he got under his belt last year, I think we're going to see an improved Deshaun Watson, right? I mean, I think it's really easy as Cincy fans to crack jokes about Deshaun Watson and his history, but I mean, he was an NFL MVP at one time. They've got a better line than they did in Houston, right? I think he's got an upgraded personnel, and especially you've got the number one back in the league, in my opinion, Nick Chubb. I think they're going to put a lot of stress on them early. That's going to be the key of the game right there. Can you shut down the read option? Can you shut down the run? And if you can't, it's going to be a really long day, because once they do that and once they run effectively, then they're going to try to throw it over your head and stress those new safeties out. So I think that's really the big key in my eyes of the game. And then if certainly, if Joe can get back there and pass and have some time and get this line back together, adding Orlando Brown, right? I don't think there's going to be too much gelling there. But certainly Alex Kappa coming off an injury, and we've seen a lot of things happen in that right tackle spot, right? Who's going to start at right tackle, and how is that going to develop throughout the year and build that chemistry together, as we saw kind of mid-season, right? Those are my keys of the game, and I think whoever kind of does that effectively, right, is going to come out victorious.
Well, I'll tell you what, going last ain't fun, because you guys hit on pretty much everything. But one thing you guys Tony kind of hit on was the safeties. But I really think the Browns have a decent wide receiver core in Peoples-Jones. It seems like every time he plays the Bengals, this dude, it's the best game of the year. So how do these guys play? How does Cheeto play when he comes back? We've all seen the videos of him. He looks great. I definitely love Cheeto. I think he's very underrated. Would love to see him come out, ball out. But I think this could shed some light on the Browns receiving core a little bit, because I think they have a decent receiving core. Everyone wants to talk about the Bengals and Jamar, TB, which we love these guys and we think they have a big game. But the Browns do have an upgraded front, and it's going to be interesting to see how that offensive line is. And I think we all know with the addition of Orlando Brown Jr., with Jonah Williams moving to right tackle, and everyone says Jonah's looking good. We have a guy that we're all high on in Cordell Wilson, and then a captain under center. So it's going to be interesting. If we can contain that pass rush, is going to be key for us. But also, let's see how the DBs do. That's going to be very interesting to me. I think it's going to be a fun game overall. You guys actually got a guy I was really high on in I probably will slaughter his name. Sadiq from Baylor, the kid from Baylor, the defensive lineman. What was his name? Siaki Ika. Yeah, I really liked him. And then you guys kind of got him. And then you got the kid from Tennessee. What was that kid from Tennessee's name? Cedric Tillman?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So it's going to be a fun game. It's going to be very interesting. I don't know. What questions you guys got? I just kind of went blank right there.
One question that I have for you. What are some, because obviously we know the Bengals roster well, and you're going to know the Browns roster really well. One of the things that we're not hearing from a national perspective or from a Bengals perspective is like, What are one or two players that are kind of like under the radar nationally that are really, popping in Browns camp that people think are going to have an impact? And like, what are some of the reasons that those guys can have success against the Bengals?
Yeah, I think the first one it comes back to Elijah Moore. After the Browns trade down about 32 spots with the Jets, they grab Elijah Moore, and then of course they turned their second round pick into Elijah Moore and Cedric Tillman by trading back in that situation. But the Cleveland has not been able to get vertical in, I don't know, a decade. They tried it with Anthony Schwartz, and he was a track star, not a football player. It just didn't work. They cut bait with Anthony Schwartz. They go get Elijah Moore, who he can stretch it vertically, but he's more of that dynamic open field shifty wide receiver that can make you miss. And they coupled that with Marquise Goodwin. So I really think those two wide receivers are kind of getting, I think that Elijah Moore is starting to get some of that hype, but Marquise Goodwin's, 12-year vet. He does one thing and one thing really well. He's really fast and he gets vertical. That's it. That's all he's going to do. But he's done it for 12 years in the NFL, and he'll get you 400 or 500 yards running two routes, a deep post and a go route. Like, it's all he's going to do, and they're going to stretch that field. It's going to open things up for DPJ. It's going to open things up for Elijah Moore underneath. And I really think they're going to be successful in the passing attack, as long as Watson returns to form. And he had some comments today saying that he thinks he's evolved as a player and he will be better than what he was in Houston, which is obviously what he's going to say. But what else are you going to say? No, man, I suck. You're probably not going to say that. But I just think that having a really diverse skill set in that wide receiver room and being able to actually attack you in the short, intermediate, and deep passing games, I think that is really the key on offense, with Elijah Moore and Marquise Goodwin bringing that. And then, of course, Cedric Tillman's got that physicality. On the other side, I think that the Shelby Harris signing coming late and kind of going under the radar when paired with Siaki Ika and Dalvin Tomlinson, they had a historically bad defensive tackle and run defense last year. I mean, dog crap bad. I was at that Jets game, so I'll never forget how that went, and I'll never forget how Atlanta the next week scored a touchdown on a drive they didn't throw a pass. So it was an 89-yard drive just right down the field. So they had a historically bad run defense. They go out and get 4 brand new defensive tackles. They hold on to one who sucks. So you'll get some opportunities against Jordan Elliott because he's awful. But, I think Shelby Harris on the defensive line paired with those other defensive tackles, they should be better against the run just by virtue of how bad they were last year.
Yeah. So with some of the passes that Deshaun Watson's had, us as Bengal fans, obviously you're going to see a lot of the bad plays and kind of the missed throws in training camp. Has he looked like he's came along to you, or does he is those throws that we're seeing and maybe seeing some last year, is that a concern, or do you really think he's dialed back in, he's back to that original form?
There's some concern because there were some days that were just not good. And I think you have that with just about everybody, but coming off of the 6 games that he had, when you have those bad days, and he had a few, especially early in training camp. And we had all thought he was doing all these passing camps with people down in Texas, and they went to one of the Bahamas was last year. He keeps taking them on grand vacations. I'm trying to find out how I can get in on one of those vacations, because
$250 million guaranteed. That'll afford you that opportunity.
A ton of really fun vacations. Yeah. They're like, well, we're just going to go to the Bahamas and play football on the beach. It's okay. Great. So yeah, there was some concern from me, but one of the things that I've kind of talked about was there are some of the beat writers that have been here for so long that are so, I think, they get a kind of a bad rep for being like negative, but I mean, they've been covering a dumpster fire for 2 decades. So I don't really know what you want them to do. But a lot of those people, like the Tony Grossi and Mary Kay Cabot and people that a lot of fans consider negative, have been pretty high on what they see him doing in practice. I was at camp for a few days. The one day I was there, it was a downpour. But he did go 6 for 8 in the red zone with 6 touchdowns in that team drill at that point. But that was 7-on-7. There wasn't a pass rush or anything like that. I think he's night and day from where he was last year. Although, again, like I said about the run defense, that's not necessarily saying much if he's night and day from a dude that didn't complete 60% of his passes last year. But he's significantly better. I think he is that guy, but there is, in most fans and even mine, and I'm the eternal optimist, there is still something in the back of the head that makes you say, until I see it on Sunday, I'm still concerned, at least a little bit.
Yeah, one of the things that I always tell people when I'm talking about Deshaun Watson, or I'm talking about a guy who hasn't played NFL football in, what was it, 2.5 years or a year and a half
700
before
days,
yeah. So if you stop doing something for that long that requires mental processing speed that is elite, and you have to see it in real life, like there are so many guys every year from different training camps that we see that are, oh man, this guy, he's awesome, he's great, he's wonderful, and then they get into the game and it's just not there. So I will believe it when I see it with Deshaun Watson. I'm not opposed to the Browns. You know what I mean? Like Tony said, former MVP. The guy was undeniably one of the best quarterbacks in the league. Now, at a position that you have to rely on more than just athletic prowess, and you have to rely on that mental processing ability and your accuracy, I'll be surprised. I'll let him surprise me before I'm gonna hand him a top 10 or top 12 or top 15 quarterback in the league title. But yeah.
And I'll tell you that's what I would say 75% of Browns fans say on the internet. There's 25% that are, you don't forget how to play football. And everybody else is just like, yeah, wake me up in September, like wake me up when he's played a couple of games and he looks like it in real games, not the preseason. And then we'll have a conversation. So I respect that for sure.
Yeah, but see, I'm high on the Browns. I mean, even as a Bengals fan, I'm really high on the Browns. Don't forget, Baker and company had the Chiefs on the ropes at Arrowhead, 3 years ago, whenever that was. If it wasn't for a blocked punt, they probably would have won that game. Deshaun Watson, not 4 years ago, had the Chiefs on the ropes with his Houston team at Arrowhead, right? And I think bringing those two things together, to your point, I mean, if we can see 75% or more of what that was in those years, I think you're going to have a really good football team. And a lot of the writers are saying, right, I mean, the AFC North is wide open. Every single team, Cincinnati, Cleveland, Baltimore, and Pittsburgh, they all upgraded. So everybody has a different opinion on who's going to win this division. And I think truly it's really up for grabs. The Bengals still, in my opinion, have one of, if not the best rosters, but that's not home speak. I could see any of these teams winning.
Yeah, dude, I was talking to some Ravens guys on a show last night, and they're like, "What do you got?" And I was like, "I think Pittsburgh stinks." But outside of that, I don't know. Like, Baltimore is so weird because of the Todd Monken thing. Will it work with Lamar? But the rest of the roster, I like their defense. And for me in Cincinnati, it's the only real questions I have. It always is that question about the offensive line. I think until we see it, it's always going to be a question. And then I just wonder about the safeties. But outside of that, I'm like, yeah, like that's a Super Bowl roster right there. Like, and I think that if Watson's that guy, I think that's a Super Bowl roster. And I think there's a really, really good chance that week 18 means a lot in Cincinnati in January.
So speaking on that, what do you think, Roach, the division's going to look like? How do you think it's going to pan out? Because a lot of us Bengals fans obviously are high on on the Bengals. AFC North champions back to back. But the AFC in general is it's a super tough division here. And the AFC North is a dogfight. So it's going to be really hard to win the AFC North. And not only that, to get home field advantage, which a lot of Bengals fans, that's what we're talking about, is bringing that AFC championship down to Paycor Stadium. So I think it's going to be difficult. And I see a lot of us being between a 3-3, 4-2-ish. Where do you think the AFC North in general stands?
I think that wasn't last year everybody was 3-3 in the division, like, which was just like something that had like never happened.
Close. Yeah.
Yeah. It's like, what? That's the ultimate dogfight record, is that nobody gained any ground over each other in their divisional games, right?
And we're just beating each other up. So you're talking about the AFC in general stuff.
Yeah.
In our division, beating each other up. It makes it really tough to keep progressing.
I think the AFC North this year is what everybody said the AFC West last year was going to be before the Raiders and the Broncos were dog crap, and I think they still are, but whatever. So I made a prediction. I've kind of changed my prediction just a little bit. I've got Cincy at I got Cincy at 13 wins at number 1, 12 or 13. I think Cleveland's behind him at number 2 with 11 or 12. There's a couple of games. I did a 12-5 record prediction for the Browns on Monday. I still think Cincy's 12-5 or 13-4 ahead of them. I've got Baltimore somewhere as a 9 or 10 win team, and I think Pittsburgh has their first losing season under Mike Tomlin. I think 7 or 8 at most for them.
Those are big words there.
Oh, I love it.
Yeah.
I was like,
yeah.
Somebody said this on a. Go ahead.
I was just going to say Pittsburgh's weird, man, and it's all about matchups. Like, the Ravens, we've kind of had the Ravens number here lately, but the Browns kind of had us, and we've kind of had Pittsburgh's number as well. So the matchups are all weird. Like, you might be a better team, better roster, but the matchup in general is just different. In the whole AFC, we just fight each other back and forth, and it's, like you said, it's a dogfight.
I was listening to one of the Browns podcasts I usually listen to, and Jordan Zerm was on there and said that, and I wanted to say this because it was the funniest thing I'd heard. I just want to see if everybody else realizes that this is true. Mike Tomlin never zips up his coat. Like, think about that for a second. You think about that. When he's out there and it's winter, that coat is open. He's got a hoodie on too, but like that coat, it's open, it's flapping around. And he said for that reason, that they're only going to win 7 games. He's tired of that crap.
It's style, man. Bill Belichick's got a style, right? These coaches kind of have a style.
Like cut off hoodies, bro.
I respect it, man. I think I agree with you guys. Pittsburgh is going to be last in the division, but they upgraded their roster, and I think TJ Watt is legit. He's gotten Joe Burrow's number every single year, just like the Browns do. And you gotta give credit to Mike Tomlin, right? He's had a winning roster every single year consistently, and they somehow mosey into the playoffs or in the discussion late in the season, right? So, could I see that? Yeah,
last year I thought that they were going to be absolutely doo-doo, and they still ended up just putting some kind of magical run together because the dude that never zips up his jacket he keeps pushing them boys, man. And Pittsburgh can ride the defense again this year. I think a lot of people have these high projections for Kenny Pickett, but like I said with Deshaun Watson, after a couple years of not proving it, like rookie, second-year quarterback, the guy's got to prove it. Step in, and people are making these wild comparisons. Oh, Kenny Pickett's going to be like he's going to be like Joe Burrow, and okay, settle down here. All these people.
Kenny Pickett right now to me is a poor man's Justin Herbert. I think that's truly what he is right now. What do you guys think? I think he's going to be good, but
I think to me he's not even that.
No.
I think that I would call him right now a poor man's Kirk Cousins, which is like. But
Andy
yeah, he's young and he's got.
Andy Dalton, stop.
You think he's better than Andy?
Prime
Well,
Andy?
listen.
Do I think he's better than Andy or Andy right now?
No, I'm talking about Andy in the past.
When Andy was
His
the
second year
perennial
Andy.
like middle of the road quarterback, when Andy was the line, if you're better than Andy Dalton, you're a top 10 quarterback. If you're worse than Andy Dalton, like your team's looking for an upgrade. But
Exactly.
it's like right now, Kenny Pickett has to be that. He had a couple of good games last year. So
He
what?
threw 7 touchdowns. Like
Yeah.
the thing that everybody goes to with Kenny Pickett on and I'm not saying that because this fact is true, but like everybody's like, in the back half of the year, he only turned the ball over once. Yeah. And he threw 7 touchdowns last year. What do you want me to do? Like Baker Mayfield had better numbers than him last year. And Baker played for 2 teams, one of which he was only on the team for 2 days when he went and played for him. I'm just like Kenny Pickett is, man, a poor man's Kirk Cousins is pretty good. I think he might be, that's probably fairly. I think he's just a little bit of a better runner than Kirk is. But he doesn't really do that much he did it at Pitt, but not really in Pittsburgh now. But yeah, no, I don't think Kenny Pickett's any good.
Hey, back when Kirk was that Kirk, he was running the ball a little bit. You know what I mean? He was taking some chances, but pulling it down and running through. But and I don't say that to bash the guy. Obviously Kirk Cousins is a good quarterback in the league. A lot of people kind of they hate on him, whatever. But he gets the job done mostly. And I don't say that to hate on Kenny Pickett, but I just say that to hate on the Steelers because that's what we do here in the AFC North. We hate on the Steelers. I think they're going to be last place in the division. I think that even though they did improve their roster considerably, I don't care because the AFC North this year is one of, if not the best division in football. 4 very talented rosters. The Ravens and the Steelers always have great coaching, and they're always in it, even with bad rosters. I don't think that Odell Beckham signing with the Ravens is going to move the needle as much as Odell Beckham thinks that he's going to move the needle. And then the Browns, every single year, they have been in this space of man, we have talented roster this year. We have a really talented roster this year. And then every single year, it feels like it's fallen apart for some unknown reason because Stefanski doesn't want to run Nick Chubb as much as he should.
Don't bring up that narrative. That's a sore subject.
So, I mean, let's hear about it. I'm all about him not giving the ball to Nick Chubb.
Yeah, no, everybody, there's this stupid stat, people in Cleveland don't know the difference between causation and correlation. And it's nauseating. They're like, Nick Chubb runs the ball 25 times, they win the game. Yeah, no, yeah, because they're probably have the lead in the fourth quarter and they're running the football to run down the clock. Correlation and causation, they're not the same thing. And Stefanski gets on Pardon My Take, and he just absolutely chapped the butts of all the beat writers because when he talks, he won't give you anything. His pressers and all, he won't give you anything. Him and Andrew Berry, they're the ultimate at coach speak. They say a lot of words that mean absolutely nothing. And he goes on Pardon My Take, and he's very personable. He's laughing. He's joking. He's like, yeah, I think next year I'm going to start out the game running it 25 times to guarantee I win it. And he's really upset a lot of people. But it's I just think it's so funny that there's always these, everybody wants a lame duck scapegoat. They want to be no, it's Stefanski. And it's well, if I go and show you some of the All-22 film, you'll see guys like Rashard Higgins running wide open because of the scheme and the way he's building routes on top of each other. What has Rashard Higgins done without Kevin Stefanski? He actually goes and reunites with Baker in Carolina right away, doesn't see the field. Wasn't hurt, doesn't see the field. And it's Jarvis was a shell of himself that last year. He had that hip injury, wide open all the time. Odell, Odell was doing a lot of that his own with his talent before he gets that ACL injury, and then obviously another ACL injury in LA. And of course we learned that second ACL injury, that his knee was never properly healed when he played in Cleveland before he went to LA and made it to the Super Bowl and tore it again. But it's a complicated sport. and it's a lot of things, and it always comes back to one thing: the quarterback play. If the quarterback play is not elite or at least above average, I don't think you're making the playoffs, and that's ultimately why I think Pittsburgh's not making the playoffs.
Okay, so who's the best quarterback in the AFC North?
Joe Burrow. Yeah,
Yeah.
it's not.
So you think over Lamar?
Yeah,
'Cause that's
Lamar's thing is like, I'm very intrigued by Todd Monken in LA or in Baltimore, just because that is a air raid, push it down the field, vertical offense. It's a bunch of pocket passing. It's not moving the pocket, play action, building off of the run game. They lost one of the best run game coordinators we've ever seen in Greg Roman. And I know he's probably holding things back because it's a passing league, but don't discount what he did in the run game, and that now changing. Can they still be effective running the ball with Todd Monken? Because I've seen a Todd Monken offense up close, although it was hindered by Freddie Kitchens. But I've seen those. That was dark times. That was not as dark as the time we were in Afghanistan and they went 0-16 though. That was my favorite time, just so we're clear. Everybody wanted to make fun of me because I knew how the Browns could still make the playoffs when they were 0-11. I could
they had the Bud Light fridges, you know what I mean?
That was the
Bud Light fridge.
And yeah, which was like right when it was right after we got home. And I was actually at that game, Baker's game, when they opened the Bud Light fridges. I was there. But like, I like Lamar more than some other people, but not as much as a lot of the national players, the national talking heads do. Like, I'm not quite there. I think Watson has the ability to be number one, but he's number 3 right now because I haven't seen it in a while. But I still put him above Kenny Pickett because he's done it in the NFL and Kenny Pickett hasn't. But for me, it's Joe. I'm really intrigued this Sunday to see how well Joe moves with the calf. I think he's fine. Yeah, I think he's fine. I'll be there.
Or do you think it's a because Jamar said, I want him to take the extra game if he has to take an extra game. He said, I don't care if it's 5 weeks or what it is. And that, I mean, I truly don't think that's talk because I think Jamar did
he did it last year
to do when he was out 4 weeks. I think he probably could have came back in 2 weeks. I'm just saying, I have no clue. I'm just speculating. He could have came back early if it was needed, but we have T. Higgins and we have Tyler Boyd and we have Joe Burrow at quarterback. So that makes a big difference for our team. But if you take Joe out, man, it's going to be very hard to win. And when you're questioning wins in the AFC North, it's going to be very difficult to take Joe out and still win that game. But I was going to ask you how you feel about Joe. You think it's a smoke screen, or do you think it's do you think Joe's good?
I think he's fine. I would say I'm fairly confident he's at least 90%. Like I don't know if he's fully to 100, but I don't know if he needs to be. I mean,
Well, that's what scares me with your guys' defense. Like your defensive line, we talked about that earlier. It's upgraded. Your interior pass rush is upgraded. Your 2 outside rushers are amazing. Like Myles Garrett has a history against not just the Bengals, but Orlando Brown Jr.'s struggles are against very similar opponents to this guy. So that makes for a concern. If you have Joe Burrow kind of banged up, you don't want him starting off the season under a lot of pressure. So do you think our run game, do you think we're going to tailor it towards a more run heavy? Because I think our offensive line is upgraded. We've got these guys that just go together. I think our run game is going to be better. But do you think we're going to off the rip test your guys's? Because your run defense wasn't great last year. I'm not sure where you were at, but it was not great. Horrible. Do you think we're going to test it, or do you think we're just going to start slinging it and see what happens?
I think you need to test it right away. I mean, it was historically bad. It wasn't bad. It was historically awful. Yeah. I mean, Marcus Mariota beat the Browns and he didn't complete 10 passes. Like I just like it was so bad. I think you've got to go after it because there's 2 things. I've never seen Orlando Brown or Jonah Williams block Myles Garrett. I've seen plenty of games of those guys going against Miles
Who
Garrett.
has though? Can
Yeah, no.
like,
I'm
tell
just
me who
saying
has.
he typically puts those guys on roller skates,
Yes.
and Zadarius Smith on the other side, and I'll say this because I'm gonna have to bounce from you guys here in just a couple of minutes, and I got another commitment. I apologize, but
You're right.
I think you got to, man. Go right at it. Run the ball out. They were horrible. Yeah, they're going to be better, but is it going to be great right out the rip? I don't know. Go after it. Try to build some of that play action. Try to do some of those short and intermediate things to where you can neutralize that the rushers especially, and just test the interior. See what's going on there, because I do think Joe will be a little bit limited in his mobility, which is what makes him special, is his ability to extend those plays. Even and like, he's not Lamar Jackson, but like, I think he's on the level of Patrick Mahomes. I think he gets a little underrated in his mobility, mainly because who I think it actually reminds me of is young Aaron Rodgers. Aaron Rodgers was always moving to throw the ball, and that's what and Joe will take off and get 7 yards if he needs to, but he's going to step up and step out because he knows that Jamar Chase has this. Somebody said it today. They have a psychic link. And I was like, that's perfect. That is perfect, because I can't figure it out and it infuriates me. So I'm just like, oh yeah, Jamar, like, how did you know to go in, out, down, left, right, AB, upside down, and then catch the ball? What are we doing here? So ultimately, I think you've got to try to run the ball. Somebody said this today that I thought was really interesting on Twitter. They said, I don't think the Bengals need this game because they started a little slow in September last year. Wasn't a problem for them. And they understand that. They know that. They've done it for the last 2 years, to where they know that the things in late October, November, December are the ones that truly matter. But the Browns need this game. Like, oh, buddy, because if they don't get this game, it's going to be fire Stefanski, fire Andrew Berry, trade Deshaun Watson. Because listen, we're loyal as heck, but we are not rational. And by any stretch of the imagination, these guys are not rational. And I'm not rational. I pretend to be.
Wait, you mean the fan base that 7 years in a row said that they were going to go to the Super Bowl because their roster was better? They're not rational? No.
Well, yeah, it's the fan base that, like, everybody who dominates fourth stringers in the preseason are Hall of Famers. Yeah, that fan base, that's what I'm saying. But if I can give you a prediction before I hop out of here.
Please.
It's going to be a slugfest. And I'm going to do the homer thing, and I'll take the Browns, but I think it's 34-31, and I think you could easily flip that. If a team wins by multiple scores, I think it's Cincinnati. I'll say that. Like, if the Browns beat them, it'll be a one-score game. So,
see, I feel like that's. I know you gotta go, Jacob, but
yeah,
I feel like that's kind of high. Like, I just think it's going to be.
I'm going to be there. I want fireworks.
I think it's going to be a slugfest. In the fireworks,
it's never fun to bet the under.
Over every time.
Anyways, I'm not going to finish that thought, but doesn't matter. Jacob, go ahead and plug your show, man. Super grateful. I missed you, buddy. We had a lot of good times together over in the land, and we need to.
I'll never forget the conversation we had. We were overseas during the Vontaze Perfect hit, man. That was the one that laid out Shazier. Or no, that's not what I'm thinking of.
Antonio Brown.
Yeah. Yep. The Antonio Brown hit on Shazier. Yeah. And I can't remember, but it got heated. There was a heated conversation, and I was just like, I don't know. We played a lot of Madden too, man. So yeah, we'll have to link up, especially for that second game down in the season. We'll have to get you boys over on our show as well. But you can find me at Brownswire, which is part of USA Today Sports Media Group. We're over at brownswire.usatoday.com. It's me and Corey and BA. We're over there every day writing something. I've got bold predictions for this week 1 matchup will come out sometime tomorrow, I believe. And if you go over on youtube.com /@network_216, you can find all of our stuff going on over there. I do like 3 podcasts over there, so who knows what I'm doing. So guys, I'm eternally grateful for you guys for having me on, and I'll talk to you guys soon.
Hey, thanks for showing up.
Thank you
brother.
again.
We'll see you.
WHODEY.
All right.
Just
Now,
us.
good buddy, old Roach. Jacob's super good dude, even though he's a Browns fan. We'll let that slide because he's a good fella.
Mhm.
All right, guys. Joe Burrow contract coming up. He had a presser today. Did you guys see the press conference?
I did. Did any of you guys?
I saw. Yeah,
I didn't
saw
have a
it.
chance to watch it.
Yeah, I mean, it was more of the same. And Dusty, I think you can kind of hit on this a little bit. I think he reiterated a lot of points, right? Like, I want to be in Cincinnati my entire career, but it's still a lot of that cliffhanger language that we're just kind of waiting for something to come through, right? We're sitting 4 days before the game, and there's still nothing, right? For all I know, it'll come out tomorrow morning, right?
It could come out in 5 minutes. Like, Joe's going to say the right things. Like,
Mm-hmm.
Joe's that guy. He's not going to throw the team under the bus. He's going to say, I'm focused. All this stuff is just who he is. And I truly believe he is focused on the upcoming game. I don't think this stuff's worrying him much because I think he knows where he stands. But it is kind of concerning. Like, I'm not concerned because it could come out tomorrow. It could come up whenever. But I think the Joe's deal it'll be done. Like, Bengals always pay their quarterbacks. Historically, it happens. Joe's the best quarterback. It could be the finest little detail. We have no clue. Or it could be done. They could just be waiting. Like, he could be in the process of signing it, and it could have not been done before the press conference. We have no idea. But the Bengals can't mess it up. If they do, it's going to be a problem. It's going to be really weird.
I don't think they're going to mess it up. I think a lot of the things that I was reading today, and of course, this is all hearsay, right? Twitter sports is crazy, especially right before the season. A lot of it hinged, I saw, on injury guarantees, right? Joe's an amazing quarterback when he's healthy, but he has a spotty history with injuries, right? One of them, I don't put blame on him, right? But he does have some spotty injury history. I think that's what was being hung up. But the homer in me just wants them to open up. I wake up with my morning coffee and I get a little notification from the Bengals app and it says, open this video. And it's Joe Burrow and T. Higgins together flexing, maybe a little bit of WHODEY music. And they announce the contracts. And I'm just rock hard all through the day, right? I mean, that's truly what I'm hoping for, right?
Dude, okay. So we brought up T. Higgins. Now, this is my thing with T. Is if T, I love T. T is probably my favorite. Like, everyone loves Jamar. I love Jamar. Like, there's no cause. There's just something about T, his humbleness, the way he plays ball, the way he carries himself. I just respect it, and I really like him for it. I like the way he interacts with fans. I've seen different things. I've heard different things about him. Waiting for everybody to be done with signings and different things. And he sticks around. I like him. I like his demeanor. And he hasn't let this get to him. He hasn't really talked about it. And he even said, we're thick. We're all brothers. Blood couldn't make us thicker than what we are. And I love the dude. I really wanted to be here. But the point is, if we don't give him a contract extension and we tag him, but then we go on and give him we franchise tag him. So we franchise tag him, but then we don't get any trade offers. Because I think, dude, a T. Higgins is rare. He's a number one for a lot of teams. You're going to get a lot of draft capital for him. And for a Bengals team that's paying a Joe Burrow and a Jamar Chase, that's a lot of money, man. And the draft capital is big. And I'm not saying by any means I would want to trade him off next year, but that's something to consider. I'm glad it's a good conversation to be had, and it's good that I'm not in that position because emotions ride heavy in loyalty and stuff, and the Bengals are very loyal, but I don't want to just tag him and lose him for nothing. If that makes sense to you guys, what do you think and feel about that?
I mean, I think that it makes sense that the Bengals would want to keep T. Higgins, and I think that it makes sense that they're going to make every effort to. The Bengals, as a franchise, sure, they've done a lot of things wrong in negotiations, whatever, but the positions that they've always paid, quarterback and wide receiver, like there have been plenty of times when the Bengals have had multiple wide receivers that they drafted on a second contract. Granted, were they to the level of Jamar Chase and T. Higgins? Maybe not quite, but I mean, Chad and TJ, like,
As a TJ was a 7th rounder, though. You know what I mean? Like
he was a 7th rounder, but he was a nearly a number 1 wide receiver in the league. You know,
I'm not saying he was a force, but I'm just saying to give T up or let T go after that 5th-year deal to tag him. That's a lot of money. That's like 20. I don't know. AJ was 18 million, so by now he's probably 24 to 27 million for the tag. I'm just guessing. I have no idea. But if you give him up, you do that and give him up for nothing. That's a lot when you could get a 1st-round pick, most definitely a 1st-round pick for T, and probably something later in the draft. And if you give that up, it just seems like a lot. That's my and I love T. I don't even like having a conversation. I just think it's a conversation to be had.
I agree that he's the perfect sign, tag, and trade candidate. Like, he's highly desired by a lot of teams around the league. I think people would give up high draft capital for him, but I just think that, like, for the Bengals in this window right now, 1 more year of T. Higgins is worth like more than whatever that 1st-round pick turns into in 2 or 3 years. At the end of the day, I think if we're getting a 1st-round pick from somebody, unless it's a high draft pick, top 15, and we're going to be able to get one of the like premier wide receivers as a replacement in the draft. And even then, I mean, look at how many 1st-round wide receivers in the last 5 years.
John Ross, number 9.
Yeah.
Yep.
So I just think that if you trade him for draft picks, there's so many unknowns. There are so many scenarios where it doesn't work out, and now you lose T. Like,
okay. So would you rather have a DJ Reader for another, let's just say 2 to 3 years, and a possibility to bolster our defensive lines, we got a lot of money tied up there. But to bolster the offensive line, to bolster any tight end, whatever you want to move up, that's a lot of money that you can invest. Like between Logan Wilson and Jermaine Pratt, that's pretty much what T is going to demand. So,
he's gonna make more than that. Like, I think Mulligetta, the agent's probably pushing for like $26 million, $27 million a year at 4-year deal. So
that's what I'm saying. Like, you can get these pieces in which we've done that in. I don't know. I mean, I don't know the right answer. I would love to have T, but if I want the extension to be done and I want it to make sense, I just don't want to do a 5th-year option, or not 5th-year option. I don't want to tag him and then just lose him and get nothing in return. And then now we have nothing. We lost T. Hopefully we get a Super Bowl. I mean, that's the main goal. And, like if we get a Super Bowl and we tag T and trade him off, I think everyone's going to be happy. I think T's going to have a Super Bowl. He's going to be happy. He's going to get paid. We're going to be able to move on. We don't get a Super Bowl. We tag T and then we lose him. That's pretty rough, right? Am I crazy? Or
no? And that's exactly what I think a lot of people are hoping for. Best case scenario, hopefully you finally get that Super Bowl and then you can tag him or move on and trade him, right? I mean, of course, in my opinion, I think a lot of this hinges on how the Joe Burrow deal is structured, right? Because I think we all know that Jamar Chase is going to demand max money. Personally, I don't see them retaining a guy like DJ Reader. I don't see them retaining a guy like Awuzie unless it's a really team favorable deal. I see them potentially building out this defensive line depth, maybe trading one of these defensive ends for a tackle or something. Trying to build a little bit more interior depth there, moving on from DJ Reader. But the T. Higgins thing, I mean, if they were to franchise tag this guy, in my opinion, that's the kiss of death, right? That's the Jesse Bates. All these teams aren't going to trade anything for him once they see that franchise tag. They just know to wait it out a year, right? I mean, if you can be bad for a year or wait it out for a year, you know that guy's going to become available, and you pretty much know what the dollar amount's going to be. It's going to be right around what that tag number is, if not a little more. And Chris, I agree with you. I think that 26 to 27 million range is probably what he's looking for. But ultimately, it's going to come down to how the Joe Burrow deal is structured and how this season plays out. If they don't sign him early, it's going to come after the season, and it's going to be heavily determined on how the result is and what that Joe Burrow deal looks like.
Yeah, and I think one thing to note is that we can tag him for a second year. I think it ends up being like a 10%.
It goes up every year, though. You tag him. So you can tag them exponentially, I believe, but it goes up a certain.
It's like a 10% increase on whatever that current year's tag is, or whatever the case would be.
Yeah, that's
it becomes
not
not viable at all for a player. You're paying the league average or the highest average or something like that.
I think it's the average of the top 10 highest salaries at that position.
So it's not even viable at that point if you keep tagging him.
I mean, for a second year, like it all depends on the result. Like you said, if we win the Super Bowl this year, I think that we have a lot more flexibility to be able to trade him and kind of build for depth and take a shot, even if we end up losing some juice in the short term. But one thing that I will disagree with you with, Tony, is that when you said when a team sees the tag that they're not going to give up anything for him, I think it'll be the opposite. I think you'll have so many teams in line that somebody is going to give up whatever the asking price is because they want to be the team that lands him. So there's going to be a lot of teams that want to sign him, but the problem that they're going to run into is the good teams are not going to have as much cap space as is going to be necessary to sign the guy. He can get a bag and go to a bad team. So there's going to have to be some kind of compromise there to where a team says, hey, we think that we can get T. Higgins. If we trade for him now when he's on the tag, we can negotiate a long-term extension where we can spread out the cap hit, whatever the case is. So I honestly think that there may be 5 teams that don't call about him if he does end up being on the trade block just because of that fact. And I mean, many of those teams aren't going to be able to trade for him, or they're not going to want to pay the price or whatever it is.
Mm-hmm.
But
yeah, I mean, I think looking forward though, if there's anything that runs in Cincinnati's favor is they like to keep people home. I think T. Higgins wants to play in Cincinnati. And coming out of college, this is a pretty deep wide receiver class, in my opinion. You've got some true number ones coming out of this class. I also heard today Tampa Bay might be looking at shopping Mike Evans as well. That's another veteran receiver, even though he's turning 30. That's another veteran receiver, proven commodity. I think a team like Denver, right, that needs some receivers, a team like Carolina, for example, right, they're going to be buyers at the trade deadline. And then, of course, they look forward to that wide receiver class. Teams like Arizona Cardinals, right? They're going to be wide receiver hungry as well for a guy like, take your pick, right? Marvin Harrison Jr. I think that works in Cincinnati's favor. I hope they keep him, man. I mean, I love T. We talked about it.
He's such a good dude. I feel bad talking about him.
No, I'm not. Whatever. I remember saying on this podcast a month ago they're going to keep him. There's no question about it. The more we talk about it, the more it's kind of worrying me, but I still think they keep him.
I think with the jumps in the salary caps and that kind of stuff, like, they're going to be able to do it. It's just like you said, Dusty, there is another associated cost with you can't use that money elsewhere. But I mean, personally, I think that if we can keep all of the money in our wide receiver room in the top 3 guys and the top 2 guys and just rotate the 3, 4, 5 spots through as we go, then I'm all about it. Instead of, I mean, Tyler Boyd's going to open up $10 million a year next year. If he doesn't stay on a super cheap, it would be a very, very cheap, very, very team-friendly deal, which, I mean, hey, maybe Tyler Boyd does that. He seems like that kind of guy.
Yeah.
But I would be shocked right now if if the Bengals let a homegrown wide receiver go, like T. Higgins. Because I think that, so let's say that they end up paying him $27 million a year or something over 4 years. And let's say that the Bengals were pushing for like 22 million or 21 million or whatever. At the end of the day, in a couple years down the line, that 27 million number, as long as T keeps playing well, which obviously if he's getting a number like that, you anticipate that happening, is going to be 15th, 17th, 22nd at the wide receiver position, because in the next 4 years, you're going to have guys that are just jumping over each other for the top number. So like eventually we're going to have to be paying that for a number 2. So if we're ahead of the curve and we sacrifice what might end up being $5 or $6 million for a couple years off the cap, like, don't get me wrong, I'm not saying that's an insignificant amount, because that is a lot that you can do with back end of the roster and depth guys. But it would it would surprise me a lot.
Yeah, I'm not in a disagreement. So I'm literally just torn, because I love the dude and I know what he brings to the team, but I also know what draft picks can do. Like Justin Jefferson, look where he was drafted at. Look at Chris Olave, where he was drafted at. Like look
at T. Higgins.
Look at yeah, obviously 33 overall. Like, look where T was drafted at. There's good players to be had, and our scouting team is super good at finding good receivers, especially in the second round. And I feel kind of like the bad guy right now, which is because I'm the biggest T fan there is, but I just think it's very interesting to see the money. It's a lot of money, and the things we could do in good quarterbacks. If Joe's the quarterback we think Joe is, and we all believe Joe is, he can turn an average receiver into a 700-yard receiver into a 1,000-yard receiver, a 1,000-yard receiver into 1,150, 1,200-yard receiver. The same with tight ends. You take a tight end that had 300, 250, 300 yards into a 500-yard receiver or receiving tight end. Like there's a lot of things to do. It's obviously not our job, but it's fun to talk about. And so I think Duke's got a lot of options. I would just really hate to see us tag him, get no rings, pay all that money, and then have nothing to show for it. In which obviously we'll get the compensatory picks, but them comp picks, what are we going to get for him? Like, hopefully a third round pick, but still at the end of the day, T's way more value than a third round pick. I thought it was a fun conversation to be had, and maybe a scary conversation too, because I don't like thinking about losing him, because he's probably my favorite. He's probably my favorite player, honestly. Like, I really like T, and especially the fact that he admired AJ Green, which was one of my favorite players too. Like his the way he played and the way he loved AJ, that made a big difference. But did you guys watch it? We'll switch subjects real quick because this is making me sad. Did you guys watch the Duke Clemson game by chance?
I did the whole thing. What you got, Dusty?
Dude, that was wild, right? Oh,
it was
God.
Wild, but I'll say this: Duke has a solid team. That quarterback, that white guy that they have, I think he's in Mel Kiper's top 30 or whatever. He's a really good quarterback, right? I think Clemson made a lot of mistakes that would have put them in position to win. Like when they wanted to move the ball, they could move the ball. I haven't seen a lot of teams get a block field goal, a missed field goal, fumble inside the 20, and then another interception. I mean, I'm not a buyer on Cade Klubnik, but
it was 2 fumbles, I think, with inside the 10-yard line.
It was rough.
Like, that's the game should have been closer than what it was, but dang, Duke played hard, and a win's a win, man. And if you're top, what were they, 9 or 10 ranked?
Say what? What was Clemson's rank? coming in?
Yeah, Duke was unranked, but
Duke was
Clemson,
unranked.
I think,
Clemson was like number
10?
9? Yeah,
9 or 10.
Yeah, they were top 10 team.
Yeah, and you get beat by an unranked dude. That was a fun game. I love that's what I love about college football. I mean, you just don't know, and it was awesome to see. It was fun. And then that touchdown at the end where that dude was the running back just took it to the house off like the 40-yard line. Dude, that's just daggers, as old Dan Horde would say, coffin nails, baby.
Coffin nails, yeah. No, it was cool. And I think my favorite part of that, to kind of tie a bow up on this, all the students got out of the stands and were on the sideline waiting to rush the field for like a good 2 minutes at the end of the game.
Oh, yeah.
And then as soon as the game ended, it was like World War Z, all these kids coming on the field. That was a cool sight.
Yeah, dude, the reporter's standing there like, dude, we can't even hear you, man. And then they're like, oh, you need to get that cowboy hat. And he's looking around trying to find the cowboy hat. They came out. It was you just gotta love that. And I don't know. I just wanted to bring that up because that was a fun game to watch. Now that football's back and we've missed it for so long, seeing that little upset, it made it a lot of fun. I was actually at work when I was watching it, so.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, a lot of big upsets. A lot of big upsets in college football. This weekend, whatever. Colorado, prime time. Bringing them boys, taking out TCU. But what do you guys say we get to some predictions? Get some score predictions on the game and wrap this thing up.
Well, first and foremost, I'll throw a wild card into this. Do we want to do a prediction on the Bengals game last, but at least start with the NFL opener tomorrow night? What's our prediction there? What do you think?
Yeah.
I like that.
Yeah. Send it.
Go ahead. Lions, Chiefs,
you start us
Thursday
off.
night opener. Okay, I'll start. Thank you. Thursday night opener. I think it's on, what is it? National televised game, Chiefs, Lions. Travis Kelce hyperextending his knee. They're a little thin back there. I still believe in Patrick Mahomes, like always. They're playing in Arrowhead. I'm really interested to see what Lions team comes out. They've got so much skill on that team. I really hope the Lions win. I think the line right now is 5.5 or 5. I don't know if it's updated since earlier in the afternoon.
Yeah, I'm seeing it as 4.5 right now. So
okay, so it went down a whole point. If the Chiefs win, it's going to be like 7-8 points maybe. If the Lions win, it's going to be 10 plus, and it's going to be like, oh shit, like we didn't see this coming, right?
Yeah, I'm interested to see how the Lions team comes out too, because Dan Campbell had them boys playing, man. Like
Dan's off.
It's amazing what, like, you see a team like this, like a team like the Lions, they want to play for the guy. Like the chemistry on the team is incredible, and it leads to success on the field. So I think that's a completely underrated factor in a lot of these professional sports. All these dudes are elite athletes, every single one of them. But the thing that gets you up over the top is wanting to play for the guy next to you, wanting to play for the coach, wanting to buy into the system and not being about yourself and being about the team. So I'm really interested to see how that game goes. Obviously, if Kelsey's there, he's a big swing for this game.
He's not going to be 100% though.
Yeah, that's true. But does he need to be 100% to get open?
No, he just needs cortisone shots.
Yeah. So if he can get open, that's a complete game breaker. And I'm really interested to see how Jahmyr Gibbs plays. Like,
I
don't remember who it
was in both my fantasy leagues. I never got him in either of them. Took right out from under.
He was being drafted too high.
Yeah.
Oh,
well, I think the Lions GM came out and said something along the lines of like, oh yeah, we're going to use him in like a lot of ways that people don't expect or something like that. So I'll be really interested to see how it goes. Like, obviously people just say that.
Statement. Like, I would not put that out there. You know what I mean? Like,
I don't think that means anything though.
Yeah, exactly.
He's a running back.
Yep. So
it could mean a lot. the dude's a weapon in multiple different ways, and you're saying you're going to use him in all them different ways.
Yeah, but I mean, other teams know that he's a weapon. You know what I mean? So I don't think that he's giving away any secrets by saying that. And
It's not
also,
saying anything.
what if they just use him as a regular running back and they don't take advantage of some of the things? So I'm really interested to see how that goes. I'd probably take the Chiefs in that game. Like, it's Kansas City, so they're going to beat the good teams. I would still not put the Lions in that good team category. So
I think the Bengals wasn't put in that good team category a couple years ago, and I really think the Lions could be that Bengals team. That's what they remind me of. Now the quarterback situation, that's where it kind of gets iffy, but Golf is he can be solid. Like
he had a decent season last year with not a very good roster. So
yeah, it could be interesting, and I really like that Detroit team. And if I had to pick a sleeper team, I think Detroit is up there. Them and Atlanta. I like Atlanta too a little bit.
Yeah, all I know is I'll be very happy sitting in front of my 75-inch TV tomorrow with a beer and some chicken wings.
Oh,
yeah,
dude, you're making me excited just thinking about it.
Yeah. Dusty, why don't you kick us off with your Bengals Browns score prediction? Let's see what we got here.
Yeah, I got 27, 20, 21 Bengals, or it could be 31-27. I'll go 31-27 Bengals.
Tony, what do you got?
I hate to do this because I want Cincinnati to win. If Cleveland wins, I'm actually going to disagree with Roach on this one. If Cleveland wins, I think it's going to be a big stinker by Cincinnati. I don't think it's going to be close if Cleveland wins, but if Cincinnati wins, it'll be like a touchdown. Even though I really love my Bengals, I'm going to go Browns. I'm going to go 31-20. If that's really what we're looking at, I really think that they're going to come out really needing to win this game.
Yeah.
That's my primary prediction. If Cincinnati were to win, it's going to be like a 32-10 or 32-14. Like it's going to be like Browns just fall flat on their face. So, but my primary is going to be Browns win.
See, I think this is going to be one of those week one, you know what I mean? Week one, weird stuff happens. Like you could definitely see either one of those things, especially with as good as we all think almost all the teams in the division are going to be. I'm going to go ahead and say that one of the scores is going to be like a weird, like not usual football score or something like that. And I'm going to go with the Bengals 26-21. I think we're going to see a 4 field goal game from McPherson. The Bengals offense still going to put up a couple of touchdowns, but I think it's going to take them some time to get there. Like we'll go into halftime, maybe down like 14-9 or something like that.
Yeah.
But that's where I think the adjustments come into play, and Lou and that defense holds the offense, even if Deshaun Watson is revitalized and whatever, but I'm going to go 26-21 Bengals.
Okay. Now, quick question. Who is going to be the defensive player of the game? Because I think it could be on the defensive line. I think it could be somebody young. It could be a Zach Carter. And I think Zach Carter could come out and make a difference. He's put on that weight. Someone we was high on, or I was high on. I think maybe get some interior pressure. We know Sam and Trey, the way them dudes play. And I think Miles Murphy with Joseph Ossai, he's going to be out. It's going to be interesting. I'm not saying he's going to play great, but what we've seen in college is his chase down ability. His ability, he might over pursue, but he has this little chase down ability. And I think that's going to be a lot of fun to see against somebody like Nick Chubb and see how he plays. And that's probably who I'm most excited to see it hit between him and Dax Hill. and obviously, you know, you can go down the line. You can be excited to see Cheeto on his comeback. You can be excited for Dax. But I'm really excited for Miles Murphy because he's somebody I was really, really high on. And I know he's going to take time to develop, but I think his run game is going to be pretty solid. And this is the perfect time to see what he has. Who do you guys have on defense that you think might stand out or you want to stand out?
Well, standout being different than defensive player of the game. Standout player for me is going to be CTB. I think he's going to build off of what he did last year in the playoffs, especially versus the Bills, right? I like CTB. I think the eyes are going to be on Awuzie, just how he came back. But CTB is my key player for the game because they're going to try to pass on the rookie, right? He's still a rookie in my eyes. He's a second-year player. They're going to try to get after him and then exploit that, and then. You know, I think that's one of the big keys. But ultimately, that defensive line, right? I mean, if we can stop that run, I could easily see a guy like Trey or Sam, especially being so effective against the run, being a key defensive player of the game. So
yeah.
What about BJ?
What
about BJ Hill? You think BJ could add a little juice up in there?
I like BJ. I love the dude. He's so awesome. I'm still a little bullish on him, though, from the season we had 2 years ago. I hope he does. I think Reeder's a bigger X factor, of course. But BJ Hill, I could see him getting some really nice pressure and forcing that run outside.
Yeah. I'm just fucking pumped. Oh, sorry. I'm really
Kid show.
Hey, we're good.
I'm really excited, fellas.
Yeah, it's funny. I saw something. T. Higgins' mom was tweeting earlier. Oh yeah, I was on Bengals Gym podcast and I dropped an F-bomb. So like, sorry about that. Some people are mad about it or something. So that's funny. You and T's mom, you know what I mean? Just couldn't hold in the excitement.
Yeah,
but yeah, I think that the Bengals defensive line being able to stay fresh is gonna be a huge key. And like, I'm really curious to see what happens and who are the guys on the field when they do see those 3rd and 7, 3rd and 8 kind of plays, because like our defense in general, but our defensive line particularly is built around versatility. Like we have so many guys. Like Sam Hubbard was the first of the group, but we have so many guys that can kick inside and like still be effective players. Like Sam Hubbard, Cam Sample, Joseph Osai, Miles Murphy, Trey Hendrickson could all be on the field at one time.
Is Osai back or is he still injured?
No.
Oh, yeah, he'll be injured.
He's injured,
but,
yeah.
I mean, like replace that name, you know what I mean, with one of the other guys. And like
that's going to pay dividends in the long run.
Yeah. But I mean, I'm really curious to see how those guys are played. Tony, you stole the X factor right out from under me. Cam Taylor-Britt I think he's going to be a revelation this year. Like he
put that going on, baby.
Dude, he's like built like a Jamar Chase version of a cornerback.
I love him. Like, he's a freak athlete.
He's so stocky. He's like, you don't see cornerbacks that look like him. I think like where he could get into trouble is he is very physical. So I think if we run into one of those games where the refs are like, you know how it is at the beginning of the season where, you know, they're told to look out for this thing and that thing and like
put an emphasis on it.
If that's the case and they're just calling it really tight, and like I think he's gonna struggle because I mean he bullies guys. Like it is what it is. Like he's in their grill, he's in their kitchen all the time, the whole route, and I'm on board with it. So I think that he's gonna be like especially with Donovan Peoples-Jones, I think he might be one of those guys that you can get under his skin. He might be one of those guys that you can kind of throw him off his game by being a little physical with him. So I think
against George Pickens, when he plays George Pickens,
dude, George Pickens, what a weirdo! Like the guy makes these like awesome, incredible, like highlight reel catches. I don't understand where the hype is that he's going to be like this next great superstar wide receiver because
How do you think his teammates like him?
He's talented. He's an OPI magnet. So
well, we've seen all the highlights, but like, sure, if you want to have a game that's like 4 catches for 97 yards and 2 touchdowns, like, yeah, that's a good game. But like, if your next 3 are 2 catches for 22 yards on 8 targets and 5 catches for 43 yards, and you know what I mean? Like, I just think this is one of the things that I've said probably 3 or 4 times today. Prove it. Don't talk about how good you're going to be. Like, I don't want to hear anybody talking about how he's going to be, he's this great receiver and whatever. Can he be that? Sure, maybe the guy's an athletic freak and his hands are like glue. Like, he's made some catches that I don't know how it's physically possible for him to be able to like grab onto the ball like that. But like, yeah, I don't know.
Okay, I got one last question before we get out of here. What's more important, Joe Burrow touchdowns or Bengals sacks? Because last year we had, I think, 30 sacks. It was pretty low.
For the season?
For the season. So do you think we'll have more sacks this year with having a fresher defensive line, more depth there? Or do you think Joe's going to throw more touchdowns? Because I think our run game's going to be better. So I think that's going to cut into Joe's touchdowns. But I'm not going to get into it. Do you think we're going to have more sacks or more passing touchdowns by Joe?
Well, that's an easy one. It's going to be more passing touchdowns. But I think the key is going to be Joe touchdowns over sacks. He's been proven to win games over and over, even last year going all the way to the AFC Championship game and having a chance to win that game with such a low sack total. That's my opinion on it. What do you think, Chris?
I think that if our sack number does not exceed Joe's touchdowns, then we're going to be in trouble. Because like one of the reasons that we're able to kind of survive with giving quarterbacks as much time as they had last year was the fact that our safeties were able to cover up a lot of blemishes.
True.
So I think if we have guys like, and there are some people out there that say, oh yeah, we were getting the pressures, but we just weren't getting the sacks. Well, guess what? If you ain't getting the sacks, this year is going to be a lot different than last year was, with a couple more mental breakdowns here and there, a couple more mistakes that don't get covered up by your all-pro safeties, a couple more mistakes that don't get covered up by your veteran leaders, by a defensive captain. So I think that I like Dax Hill, I like Nick Scott, I like Jordan Battle, I like Tyson Anderson. I mean, come on. But if your sack total isn't closer to 48, which I don't know how many passing touchdowns Joe had last year.
I think it's 37. I could be wrong. I think it was 37 and had 30
yeah,
sacks.
but
I could be wrong.
I mean, I'm looking at Joe to be over 2 touchdowns a game, probably somewhere around that 40 to 42, 45 touchdowns. I think we need to have like pushing 50 sacks because the defense was a bend, don't break defense last year. They, kind of let people get down into our defensive side of the field. But eventually, like, that comes back to hurt you because eventually that it's bend, don't break, bend, don't break, bend, don't break. But sometimes you break. And, like, I think those mistakes are going to be more of a problem than the offense is. But
yeah, so we saw that in the preseason. When the defensive players played, it was the bend don't break. I think it's kind of Lou Amaruno's scheme is the defense is going to make a play, bend don't break, in which I'm all about it. Give up 3 points, don't give up a touchdown. That's great, but I think if Joe can get around that 45 and we can get around 42 sacks, I think, dude, that's going to make big difference. Now you could switch that either way. And yeah, I think the Bengals are going to have a great overall. The Bengals will have a great season, I believe. But if you switch that either way, it's going to be a big difference. We had 30 sacks last year. That's not enough. The pressures, like you said, Chris, the pressures were up there. That's great and all. But if you get a sack was just a 4-yard loss, like 4-yard loss, if you're at third or second and 6 you get moved back to 3rd and 10, your whole playbook is changed up a little bit. And so I'm looking forward to that and seeing what we do, see what Trey's like with being fresh, see what even Camp Sample and oh shoot, I just said his name earlier. The kid from Florida, the 3rd round pick.
Zach Carter.
Says
Zach Carter.
Zach Carter. Yep. And just seeing what these guys are like with BJ Hill, I think it's going to be interesting. I think the sack total needs to go up. I think Joe Burrow's touchdowns are going to go up, but I think our rushing touchdowns are going to go up as well. So it'll be fun. Well, we can cut this off. It was great, dude. It was great talking some football, man. We're here. We made it. It's week 1 is among us, and I know some of us have work this weekend. So if anybody's watching this when we put it out, don't tell me the score before I get home from work, because I'm gonna get that thing recorded and I'm gonna be watching that when I get home. So don't be texting me.
No spoilers.
No, yeah, don't be spoiling me. If I look at my phone, I got a text from somebody and I ignore you, it's probably because I'm waiting to get home and checking the game out. So don't expect to hear back from me, and don't text me. Don't text me to spoil it. But yeah, another shout out to Roach, Browns guy. Check him out. I know he dropped his stuff. Super good dude. But that's all I got, fellas.
Yeah, I know we mentioned it last episode, but start of the football season. This baby is tonight's Wednesday night, one day before the start of the season. We're going to go ahead and get this thrown up on Twitter. We're going to give it 1 week. So we're going to just keep an eye out on Twitter. We'll have the standard, like, retweet, tag a couple of Bengals fans, and then we'll be sending that out next Thursday. We'll pick a winner, and we can go ahead and announce it on the podcast or otherwise, but we'll keep an eye out on the Twitter for that at Bengals Army 1, and let's get you fitted with some new Bengals gear.
Yes, sir. What you got, Tony?
I got nothing. Looking forward to another podcast here soon. Certainly looking forward to the season, guys. It's here.
Football's back, baby. WHODEY.
You back, dog. All right. I will apologize for the foul language. I'm excited. I dropped a word that I probably shouldn't have done. So.
Kid show. Yeah. This guy. Oh, that guy.
It's all passion, baby. But we'll send us off with a WHODEY. Week 1's among us. Let's go.